first of all, thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Sir, my first question is about your background. From where you did schooling, where you did graduation.
So I did my schooling from Kolkata, and I have graduated in manufacturing engineering from BITS Pilani in 2018. And after that, I have been almost a full-time aspirant for the last 4 years. So this has been my academic part of the journey.
Did you join any coaching for UPSC?
Mostly it was self-prep. However, at times when I felt the need be, I have joined some coaching. But mostly it was in the field of my optional. Like I did it for my optional. GS, I do not remember joining any coaching as such, other than some test series or standard, something like that.
Why did you choose civil services as your career?
Okay, I get this question a lot. So the reason why I chose civil services as a career is due to an experience that I had in BITS Pilani. So I come from Kolkata, a metropolitan city with the best facilities, and I moved to Pilani, a rural town, and we had the best facilities in campus, but outside campus, things weren't at the same level. So I had joined NSS in my second year in BITS Pilani, and this was a turning point wherein I realized that there are two different Indias that I was seeing before my own eyes. And this was something that actually pushed me that for these people, for these societies, for these villages, I could do more being an administrator than as an engineer. And this is why I decided to appear for civil services examination.
Who was your role model during this journey?
I did not have any role models as such, but then I have always seen I have seen people in my family, especially on my mother's side, have been in civil services, my maternal uncles, both of them. So they have been people that I've looked up to. Other than that, I've seen my parents and like I've seen how they both the nature and the humility. Then there have been college seniors who have been a very guiding light, and these are the people that I've generally looked up to.
Who helped and supported you during this journey?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question, please?
Who helped and supported you during this journey?
A lot of people. I'm blessed to have a lot of good people around me. My parents for the first few people, my mentors, my friends, my people, the well-wishers. There were a lot of people that I knew. They used to inquire, "Kya chal raha hai, kaisa chal raha hai?" And then college mates, friends over the internet, and my mentors, a couple of teachers as well. So I had a good support ecosystem with a good support system.
Sir, now my question is about prelims. How you did your prelims preparation?
Okay, so prelims preparation is basically divided in a couple of stages. First would be reading, second would be revising, third would be consolidating whatever you have done or read or revised. Fourth would be practicing a lot of mocks, and the fifth would be revising and analyzing how you're performing in your mocks. So these five are the key stages that drove my prelims preparation.
Any tips for CSET paper?
Okay, on a personal note, I am an engineer, and I am someone who's decent in maths and decent in English. So other than my first attempt where I actually glanced over a couple of CSAT papers, I've never solved a CSAT paper in my life, and I have scored decently around above 140 every time. So personally, I'm not the best person to guide people on CSAT, but I believe that the two sections people must prioritize whichever is their stronger section. Like maximize your score in stronger section and ensure that you are able to do at least 25 to 30% minimum questions in the other section. There are a lot of resources available on the internet, and then there are the other apps, banking apps, which has a lot of question banks, especially with respect to the quantitative and the comprehension part of the CSAT. Able to like gain confidence in that subject, in that paper, they can actually go for some sort of coaching or anything like that. This would be my advice.
Sir, this was your which attempt?
Okay, this was my fourth attempt, my fourth mains, but my very first interview.
What were your mistakes that you took 4 attempts?
The biggest mistake was my optional. I had chosen a wrong optional, and it actually cursed me for my first two attempts. Then I changed my optional, and things finally started getting better. Other than that, I did not refer to toppers' answer copies. And third would be less practice of answer writing. So these were the three key mistakes that I had made in over my past couple of attempts.
How you did your prelims and mains preparation? Means combined or first prelims preparation, then moving on to mains?
See, I am someone who believes that prelims and mains preparation go hand in hand. Like there's no point in reading the same book once from a perspective of prelims and the other time from perspective of mains. So when you're reading a book, you read it for the purpose of gaining an understanding of it, not for writing a paper. Writing a paper comes supplementary, and once you get an understanding of the concepts or the knowledge, it becomes easier for you. So my preparation for prelims and main was very much integrated. I never prepared them in silos.
Any tips for mains paper? How you prepared for mains?
Mains generally, whatever you study for your prelims, you have to consolidate that and then revise it, write some tests, analyze your tests, be very humble and open for suggestions. Write answers better, read toppers copies and compare, and revise your answers again. If need be, revise some certain topics. There are some extra topics in mains for which you can refer some freely available sources. For example, internal security, disaster management, and mentally train yourself for a very tiring 10, 12 days. This is the biggest thing that I would say.
How you did answer writing? Any tips for answer writing?
When you're starting off answer writing, the first thing you need to do is push yourself, because answer writing is something that all of us actually hate, but it is something that will get you a rank and that will get you into the list. So it is inevitable. Like just as Thanos said, I'm an inevitable. Answer writing is inevitable, but then like you'll actually have to work up to it. Like you can start off slow, start off with one question, two questions a day. It might take you 15 minutes, 20 minutes, even more. Gradually, it will come down to that 7 to 10 minutes range. And once you're done practicing and you have a good grip over your short, like one or two answers, you can gradually start pushing the number. 5 answers a day, 7 answers a day. And then between pre and mains, I would actually recommend people to give full length mocks in simulated environment with proper timer and everything. So this is what would be my 2 cents on answer writing.
When to start answer writing? In the first day, intermediate level, or after completing the whole syllabus?
See, different toppers have different opinion on it. I'm someone who believes that answer writing should be done only when you are done with reading the subject once. For example, if you have to read about, like if you want to write answers on GS1, you must have done GS1 completely. एक बार तो कम से कम completely कर लिया है. Then you can start answer writing, because I believe that if you start off just after a couple of chapters or something like, it won't be of much use, because at times you'll have to integrate your answers with different aspects. And this is something that you get to know once.
How you prepared for your essay paper?
Please repeat your question, please.
For essay paper?
Okay, for my essay paper, see, the essay paper is divided into two parts. One is the content, which comes from your GS papers, from your optional, and from the world around you, current affairs, and everything that you observe around you. And the second part is the structure or flow, which comes with the practice. So mostly essay paper, for a very long period of time, it was about reading toppers copies and then trying to write an answer on very similar lines as the toppers themselves and comparing them. So this was the starting part of it, and this was the starting phase of preparation, and gradually things get better with when you practice a lot.
Sir, how you prepared for your language paper?
I never prepared for my language paper, to be very honest. What I did was, there's something that I remember doing that, because my language is Hindi. वो क्योंकि इसलिए इनका spelling गलत होता था, तो mostly I had a very decent grip over I have a decent grip over Hindi, so it didn't bother me much. But then I would recommend solving previous year question papers for language paper, and then judging yourself if you're getting somewhat around 100, 120, like you're in a safe zone. But do not take this paper lightly. Every year there are people who fail this paper.
How you prepared for your interview?
My interview preparation was a sum of that, was a culmination of whatever my pre and mains preparation was. See, it was the most fun part of the interview. So there are two parts. Again, there are two parts. One was reading about your DAF, about the news current affairs, about your subjects in brief. The other was wearing a suit and calling up the coaching institutions and going and giving a mock. And then when you come back and you get your video, you analyze that video, understand how you could have answered it better, how you could have been better composed while answering. So this was the thing.
How can aspirants develop their personality during their preparation?
See, about developing a personality, I believe that it's an incremental process, right? So generally reading newspapers, interacting with people, giving an objective and a rational approach to answers, and then being honest with whatever you're answering is something that I would personally be recommending. So this is something that people can do. If there's someone who's actually not very strong in the language, he can actually refer to newspapers, watch some English interviews or English news channels, and then try communicating. If someone who's actually not very comfortable speaking in front of people, he can actually practice it by speaking in front of mirror and recording himself. So this is how you can actually phase your preparation, your personality over your preparation phases.
According to your point of view, how much year is sufficient for the UPSC preparation?
Okay, so this is probably the toughest question that I have faced in any interview as such. But see, they cannot be of given fixed year. Everyone is running his own her own race. There are people who have cleared it at the age of 21, 22. There are people who have taken it 8, 9, 10 attempts. So it's about different things. Ideally, the exam cycle is such that it can be done in 1 year. If there's someone who's starting right now, he can do very well manage between 1.5 years, 2023 attempt. But again, it depends from person to person and how much you are able to put in, how much you are able to take. But 1 year is a good period. There, it can be 2 years. So like it's like you have to be prepared. Like you, no one wants to go to the fourth or fifth attempt, right? That's the thing.
Were you active on social media during your preparation stage?
Yes, I was active on Facebook during my preparation stage. I very recently joined Instagram and Twitter, so I was not active on Insta or Twitter. But yes, I was active on Facebook, and but this was only during those periods when I was done with my daily targets, or I was done with my जो पढ़ाई वढ़ाई का शेड्यूल था. ऐसा नहीं होता कि पढ़ाई के बीच में फोन चला के फेसबुक देख रहा हूँ. So it was only after my studies that I decided to like open Facebook and like social media interaction.
Many school-going students, such as in 11th and 12th, are also preparing for UPSC. So, any tips for them?
कुछ नहीं, no tips. अपने अपने बचपन को enjoy करो, ठीक है. The maximum that you would want to do is everyone should be doing a good newspaper, and then और थोड़ा मन करता है तो सनसेट टीवी के डिबेट्स देखो. बट अदर देन दैट डू नॉट डू एनीथिंग. लाइक क्लास 11 12 आप अपने लाइक focus on yourself, focus on building a personality which is not directly related to studying Bipin Chandra or Lakshmikant. इसका टाइम आएगा, बाद में आएगा. You don't want to exhaust yourself very early.
Sir, according to you, when should we start our preparation, such as in graduation last year, first year, or after completing the graduation?
It depends from person to person. So what I actually did was probably in my final year I started my preparation, and that is something that I actually tell people to do. कि final year में start कर दो. Let's say आप 3-year course में हो, so you have entered into your third year, and it's almost like 1 year to your UPSC exams, right? That would be a good time to start your preparation if you haven't. Otherwise बहुत जल्दी करोगे या फिर बहुत late करोगे तो दोनों के disadvantages होते हैं. बहुत जल्दी करोगे you might burn out very easily. बहुत late करोगे तो you might not even complete it on time. So there's double jeopardy हो सकता है, but optimum time would be in your final year.
Any last tip for aspirants?
Read. Do not multiply your sources. Do not, like, for every subject, do not go for more than 2 sources. Revise a lot, practice a lot, give a lot of mocks and answer writing wala, and try to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And lastly, enjoy the process. Believe in yourself, enjoy the process, and this is what I would actually say to the aspirants.
Any question left by me which you would like to tell to the people?
Yes, there is something that I would actually address, and I use this in probably all my interviews to talk to people watching this interview. Focus on yourself. You are important. You are more important than this exam. And I would like to use your platform to raise awareness on maintaining a good physical and mental health, especially mental health, because it is very much untalked, and it's a shame that in a country like India it's some question of taboo. And it's very important that people stay focused, people stay dedicated, but at the same time it shouldn't be made a matter of life and death, which unfortunately we give an exam of the magnitude of UPSC and importance as such. So it's very important that people pay good heed to their own health, their physical health, their mental health, especially the mental health, because like it's a very important place. Like if things are right up in your head, things will be very right in your head. So speak up, talk to people, don't be alone. The important fact is that people feel alone. Do not feel alone. There are people who love you, and there are people to whom you are very valuable. If the need be, go get some sort of medication or some sort of counseling. There's no shame in that. If there's someone around you who might be suffering from some sort of mental issues, health issues, talk to them. Do not let them suffer alone, and like keep this cycle of positivity going forward. It's just another issue that can be dealt with love, care, and if the need be, with proper medical attention. Justice. And this is something that I would actually want the aspirants to focus on.
From this message, one more question arised in my mind is that in this 2 weeks I had read in the news that 3 students attempted suicide because of UPSC. In fact, one had not even attempted yet UPSC, but because of fear of failure, he attempted the suicide. So, any tips for those people?
See, I would actually wish these people. I am not very aware of the news, because to be very honest, I haven't followed the newspapers of late. Especially since the last couple of weeks, the results were out. But I hope and pray that these people are all right. And this could also serve as a message for others that your life is important. Treat UPSC just as an exam, and UPSC will treat you just as a human. Anything more or less, and things will go bad for you. ये एक एग्जाम है, नहीं पाया है मिले उसकी भी गारंटी नहीं. ठीक है, so just treat it as an exam. इसको एग्जाम की तरह रखो. Do not make it a matter of life and death. Enjoy the process. If you think that this is the easy, अब एक बार IAS ऑफिसर IPS ऑफिसर बन गए फिर मजे हैं, तो you are wrong. My seniors ने हमें ये बोल रहे हैं कि तुम लोग अभी जितने मजे करने कर लो, life will get very hard after.
Thank you so much, sir.